Okay, we are live on YouTube. 1 second. There you go. Good evening, Sinai Temple and Melrose, B'nai Israel, Emmanuel. This is Rabbi Erez Sherman, along with the Rabbi Sherman, my father, Rabbi Charles Sherman of Elkins Park, Pennsylvania. Just going to make sure that we are live on YouTube. Also streaming on Facebook. This is an experiment going on three platforms at once. We're lucky at Sinai Temple that over these last few weeks we have gone virtual, both ritually for our minyanim, our services, our Seder coming up, and also our classes. And this is a first for me, because usually when my father and I are in conversation, it is at each other's homes. So I go away from my home to Philadelphia, and I get to be Rabbi's son over there. And if it's in LA at Sinai Temple, then we get to be here on the West Coast, and my dad gets to be Rabbi's father. But in this case, I don't know what we are. We are just father and son, and you are welcome to join our evening conversation, our irregular evening phone call. You know, people ask what a rabbi and a rabbi speak about, and there's many rabbis in our family. My dad, Rabbi Guzik, my wife here at Sinai Temple, my sister, Rabbi Marshall in Cherry Hill. And I say, what? It must be so fascinating what your dinner conversations are about. And to be honest, it's not usually about theology. It's usually about what's for dinner. But tonight we're going to speak about theology, because what's unique about this experience right now of isolation and quarantine is that no matter where you are in the world, we are all going through the same thing. It's not like there was an earthquake in California. What did it feel like there? It's not like there was a blizzard in Philly and we're out here wearing shorts. What did it feel like there? But rather, each one of us is going through the same thing. This morning, our family gathered also on Zoom, and we were from Israel, London, Philadelphia, New Jersey, and California. And it was just ironic, but also beautiful that we were going through the same thing, thousands of miles away, all across the world. And so this evening, we're going to have a conversation. We titled it Discovering Joy with Heartbreak, and I'll explain in a few moments where that came about. But I want to share with you to begin a piece not written by myself or by my father, but rather written by sometimes the silent one in our family, but usually the loudest in action, and that's my mom, Leah Sherman. Because on Facebook just the other day, she wrote something that I want to share with you. She said this. Sorry. She said she called it a message of hope, and she called it just to add my 2 cents. She said, I woke up today, this was Sunday, to some articles in the paper written by people whose immune systems have been compromised long before the coronavirus pandemic hit. They have had to self-quarantine, practice safe hygiene, stock up on supplies, medical and non, make alternative plans for events just in case. Now, literally the whole world has been taken up by these practices. My mother continues, I have been thinking about this way before I even opened up the paper this morning. She says, I myself have spent each Jewish and secular holiday, birthday and anniversary, over many years holed up in a hospital room with Eyal. Eyal is my brother of blessed memory who passed away in 2017, and he was a quadriplegic for 32 of his 36 years. She continues that he was physically challenged, a quadriplegic, ventilator dependent, and we know the conversation about ventilators today, and in need of total care for his 36 years that he blessed us with his life. We had to stock up on all kinds of supplies, and our plans were never definite. This way, before we had virtual this and virtual that. My mom concludes, I was at least happy that the rest of the family was where they should be and well taken care of, because I believed that one day Eyal would get out of the hospital and the holidays would be there for us to catch up. And then she concludes, one would think my favorite song would be Dayenu, After long hospital stays, we would say it's enough. But instead, I sang the refrain of a song from the 60s. We've got to get out of this place if it's the last thing we ever do. And we did. We would get out of the hospital and the holidays were still there. We got out and we were able to be with family once again and celebrate in real time. So he's not Rabbi Sherman, but it's Abba right now. Maybe you can just say a few words based on Ema's piece, based on this situation that's going on now and the different theological crises, if you wish, that you face, not as a rabbi, but actually as a father.
You know, when I look really what's happening today, I look at it not universally, but I look at it as very, very personal. And it reminds me of some of the things that we went through as a family. You were part of it, and I think there's a message there in terms of how do you get through it. And what I was thinking about is that the idea of faith, that the both of us really are rabbis, it's a rabbinic family, and in terms of belief in God. And I remember, I know it's a crisis in faith, but I know the exact day, I know the exact time. It was in 1986. It was the end of August. And your brother Eyal was in the ICU at NYU Hospital. He had slipped into a coma. He was on a ventilator, which he'd never get off for the rest of his life then, about 32 years of his life. And we never left his bedside. And I remember a past president of my congregation
Sorry,
in
just lower the
upstate New
microphone
York.
just a little.
Did what?
Lower the microphone just a little. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
No, that's good.
That there was a past president of the congregation, and the present president of the congregation came to NYU to visit. They walked into the ICU, and I recognized how uncomfortable they were because they didn't recognize Eyal. He looked, even though he was then 5 years of age, he looked like a 90-year-old man. And in the middle of the visit, they asked if they could take me out to lunch. Anybody who's been in New York City, NYU's around 32nd, 33rd Street, and First Avenue. We walked and we went down to the Second Avenue Deli, which is at Second Avenue and 10th Street. And we sat in a booth, and it's there where I had a theological, you could say, crisis of all places, over a hot pastrami sandwich from Club. It was the end of August. The holidays were in the middle of September. And they asked me if I was coming back. I understood really it wasn't a question of coming back, but really what it was, that I have the psychological and emotional strength to stand before a congregation that was large, 1,500, 1,600 people on Rosh Hashanah, and talk about the goodness of life and how God is good and how God is wonderful. And is at that point, I knew I was coming back. I knew I was coming back. But I think people have asked me so many times, where did you regain your faith? And the fact is, maybe I'm the village idiot, but I never lost my faith. I never lost it. Maybe it's part of my emotional, psychological DNA. And I think, Erez, you're probably aware, there's a verse in the book of Devarim in Deuteronomy. In fact, it was taken from there to the high holiday liturgy on Yom Kippur. And in part it says, I think I'm quoting you correctly, at least part of it, ha nistarot L'Adonai Eloheinu. Those things are hidden belong to God. Haniglot lanu. Those things that are revealed belong to us, which means there are certain parts of the human personality, certain things of life we just don't know. And that really is what faith is all about. And I feel, I don't know about comfortable, but I'm able to live in the neighborhood of what I call mystery and confusion and skepticism and doubts. And that's part of my faith. You know, the articles of faith by Maimonides, Rambam. The last article is what, Erez? What is it?
Ani ma'amin. I believe.
Okay.
Whew.
Well, it's not just I
Good
believe.
test.
No. Yeah, you're partially correct. What's the last article?
Afi
Ani
al pi.
ma'amin. Go on.
Ani ma'amin be'emunah shlema, that I believe in complete faith, b'viat
Go.
HaMashiach, and
Yeah.
the coming of the Messiah.
Go on. Finish it.
Afi al pi,
Which
even though.
means, yeah,
Even
go on.
though.
Alpha pi shahit mameya. Even though
What's
he
that?
may delayed. Ani ma'amin. Forget messianism. Forget a Messiah. You know, it's not even theology. It's about life. And that is my cardinal principle of life. The most important words in that statement is alpha p, although. All of us have an although in our life. I believe in total faith in the coming of the Messiah, whatever that means, a better time, a better future, a better reality. Although he may tarry, I still believe. And in part, that's what got us through our own personal narrative. And that's what gets me through a lot of what I see happening right now. Just like you and Ema and Nicole and the family and all of us, and a lot of people who are listening to us, we are frightened and we are scared because we don't know. We are vulnerable and we are fragile. But what helps me get through what I call the valley of the shadow is Ani Ma'amin. I still believe, although he may tarry.
So Passover is coming up in just a couple of days. I don't know about anybody out there, but I just got my meat delivery. So we're ready for whatever Seders we are, but you also see rabbis out there, also the conservative movement, explaining the different leniencies that this Passover is going to be different than any other Passover, at least in, I know, my lifetime and many of our lifetimes. And Passover is also Zman Cherutenu, which is the time of our freedom. And I know we're going to have a virtual Seder, so everybody watching can also join our Seder. We won't be acting. It'll be what you see is what you get with children running around. But what do we tell our people that are watching on that night of freedom when we're, if you wish, enslaved in our homes, that they have the opportunity to have just a little joy, and how do we give them permission to celebrate?
Well, it's, first of all, let me just put out a little commercial as you did. It's that we too, what we call our synagogue, the little shul with a big heart, we too will be having a virtual Seder for both nights of Pesach. And I hope everybody will join us. There'll be more information coming out.
You can watch both. It's 3 hours apart, everybody.
Just what I want to do.
Yes.
I think your question is, how do you find joy? I'm going to tell it in a little story, because what Passover also is about is to share narratives and stories, not just the text. Your older sister, Noga, how many years older is Noga than you? I think she's what?
Many.
No. Don't tell her that. That's for sure. Nogo, what it was is that she was going to celebrate her bat mitzvah, and we were walking home from synagogue. Nogo, myself, Eyal was in the hospital I think at that point he was in the hospital for about a year and a half already. Ema was there every single day and slept really by his bedside. And Noga and I were walking down the hill where we live from the synagogue, and we were maybe 8 weeks away from her bat mitzvah. And she turned to me and she said, I don't want to have a bat mitzvah. And I thought she was looking forward to it. And, when your daughter says something like that to you, you can't just push her off and say, let's have a conversation in a year or two. You have to answer her in real time. And I remember telling her these words. And I said to her, I said, Noga, sometimes in life you're a little sad, but you can be happy too. There's the book of Gehelit, the book of Ecclesiastes, that we read during Sukkot. There's an incredibly famous, well-known chapter that, in fact, there's been a folk song that was created out of it. Turn, 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 and it says Erez, what, for every time there is a season, and there's a time what? Time to laugh, a time to cry. There's a time to dance, a time to sit, time to live, time to die, whatever. And I used to believe that. I believed we lived on the edges of life. But with all the respects to the author of Ecclesiastes, either he or she, they got it all wrong. See, we don't live on the edge. It's not a question of happiness and sadness, but we live smack in the middle. We live in the middle. And as I told your sister, I said, you can be sometimes sad, but you also could be happy really as well. And I think the message is that, listen, it will be different for Pesach, but we will sing, and we will have the afikomen, and we will laugh, and we'll embrace it really in a different kind of way. And if you're lucky enough really to be part of a Zoom Seder or speak to your family on a telephone, there'll be laughter, and there will be joy, and there'll be hope, and there'll be aspiration. And this is really, the way I see the Passover really experience.
So which part of the Haggadah sticks out the most in this year as opposed to years past based on what's happening today?
It's a great question. When I was thinking about it, myself over the last week or so, I thought, would it be Manish Tana? Would it be the rituals? Would it be singing Chad Gad Ya? Would it be eating matzah? And looking through the Haggadah a little carefully, right before we do a part of Hallel. And it's introduced with this little paragraph that I think a lot of people just skip during their seders. And it says, Lefichach al-nachnu chayavim lahodot lahalel l'shabeach. Then it goes on and it says, Hotzianu me'avdut lecherut mi'agon l'simcha me'evel l'yom tov. And it says, therefore, we are required to thank, to praise, to exalt, all kinds of adjectives, and to bless He who brought us forth from Egypt and performed these miracles. And then there's a list. He brought us from Egypt. He brought us from slavery to freedom, from Yaron, from agony to joy, from mourning to Yom Tov, from darkness, L'Or Gadol, not just from darkness to light, but L'Or Gadol, a great light, Mishibud L'Geula, from slavery to redemption. we're really in a form of slavery right now. We're enslaved in our homes. But it says we thank God who will bring us and who's brought us from Shibud Lugula to redemption. And then there's a song that says, V'nomar lefanav shira chadasha hallelujah, for we will sing before you shira chadasha, a new song, which brings us back, Erez, to what we just spoke about, at least I did, about the idea of emunah, about the idea of faith and belief, that we will be redeemed. I'm absolutely convinced that we will see better days.
When you talk about redemption, what does that mean? I know when you wrote the book about discovering joy, you always say that you titled it wrong and it got to the publisher too early, that it's not discovering joy after heartbreak, but rather discovering joy with heartbreak. In the first chapter, you write about as normal and how our normal changed in a blink. And now that the world's normal has changed, I've spoken to many people that have had to lay off employees. I spoke to actually somebody who's in the ticket business who said, who's going to go in, a matter of months or whatever and sit next to somebody else again at a baseball game or whatever. Now that we have this new normal, what does redemption look like?
I think redemption is something very, very personal in terms of one's salvation. It's seeing dreams that you have being fulfilled. When a baby is born in our community, I've done this for decades, close to 50 years. I used to give them a baby book from the Women's League of Conservative Judaism. I don't think they even publish it anymore. It's called Welcome to the World. And part of what I say to the baby, I say, may you live to see your dreams realized. And may you have the ability to dream new dreams. Our family is really a statement and a proof text that you can create this new normal and you can laugh again, celebrate again, smile again, be funny again, and enjoy life. And in part, that's what that Passover narrative is really all about. I'm sure the Israelites, and we know that when they were in Egypt, they were convinced, and no matter who told them, whatever they told them, they were convinced they were going to spend the rest of their life in Egypt. There would be no Jewish people. But look how the story has played out. And practically in every generation, we have been, there's been all kinds of challenges. But not only have we survived, but we have thrived. And it's a message not just for the Jewish people, it's a message for each and every one of us who sometimes finds it incredibly difficult to get up in the morning and just do the kinds of things to get through the day. But we do it. We're able to do it.
Shift to something a little more lighthearted, that's technology during this time. I've been also following Melrose Ben Israel Emmanuel on Facebook. I've been doing a little behind the scenes IT for my parents. And I know you mentioned last week, you said perhaps the coronavirus is going to be gone quicker than I can master the technology that's happening. But I think we've also seen, even though people are not in our physical buildings, there's been an amazing attachment to ritual and through things like this. I mean, I'm watching here on my phone, people on Facebook, I don't know how people are watching on YouTube, but they're rewatching, and there's a lot of things online and on TV, and people are actually tuning into religion at this moment behind the screen. Why do you think that is, and how do you think that's transforming people?
Yeah, I got to tell you something. In one hand, really, it's incredible. I'm finding more people coming to my virtual programs and services than we had them where you physically were able to show up. And again, today somebody really asked me a question, and they said, we're a traditional conservative congregation here at Elkins Park, and egalitarian. And somebody asked me the question. They said, Rabbi, after this thing is over, first of all, it felt really good for them to think of that kind of mindset. When it's over, they said, do you think we could still continue these virtual services? Now, my first response was, no, I don't want to do it because it's going to discourage people from coming to the synagogue physically. But on the other hand, and I know from our own life experience with Eyal, I wish there were these virtual services when we were at NYU and we were in Krauss Hospital in Syracuse for a couple of years to be part of the community. So it really does serve a purpose. And I don't know about, I know you folks do your services, even during good times, I think virtually sometimes. So there's an opportunity, you live stream them. But I think we may consider that because there are a lot of people who are not able to physically come to the synagogue, and allows them to become part of the community. So I become educated by this, and I become informed. And it's got my creative juices moving as well. And this new normal has allowed me to see things very differently, halakhically, really as well.
This, again, as I said in the beginning, this is new to us, and actually it opened up the possibility to do this. We would never, if our buildings were open, we would never do a Zoom thing like this. And in fact, yes. Two more questions before I know it's almost midnight on the East Coast and the ball's going to drop. So,
right. I could say, instead of saying good night to you, in a couple of minutes, I could say Boker Tov.
It's a sleep mode on the East Coast. They say, obviously, there's 4 questions. In the end, we say, L'Shana Haba Yerushalayim Habiyah, that we should gather in the rebuilt Jerusalem. But if we had to ask a 5th question at this Seder, what would it be? What would be that 5th question that we would be asking this year?
Well, first of all, there's that famous joke that goes for, it's older than me, that's for sure. What's the 5th question, Erez?
Eating.
Yeah, what time do we eat? Yeah, I'm not
I've been trained
sure.
well, everybody.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that really is this year's 5th question. In one hand, because we had a little conversation before, and I knew you were going to ask me this question, and I was thinking about it. I remember there was a kid in our congregation in upstate New York, and I went to the Hebrew school, and talking to the kids, and I asked the kids if you could ask a genie one question, what would your question be? And the kid looked at me, I think he was maybe 10 years of age, either a little boy, little girl, and said, my one question I would ask is that I would like to know if I could ask more questions. Now, that's not really fair. But I think over here, the question I would ask is not really a Passover question. The question I would ask is a question that we find in the liturgy on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Rosh Hashanah yikatevun, v'Yom Tzom Kippur yichatemu, mi yichyeh u'mi yamut. That's my question this year. On Rosh Hashanah, it is written, and in Yom Kippur, it is inscribed. But this Pesach, it is written, who shall live and who shall die? It's tough question. This Pesach, Yom Kippur, is come a bit early. And it allows us not just to talk about the Passover story, it allows us to talk about our own mortality, who we are, who we want to be, our dreams, our hopes, and our aspirations. And it says, the Chol Dor Vador, in every generation, but this year it's Lador Vador, is that what is our inheritance to those who come after us? What do we want to leave them? What do we want to give them? Never again, please to God, will we ever, ever, ever have a Passover like this.
Now that my father's given away all my secrets, I think we're going to conclude shortly. But actually, just one, that's actually a beautiful question. Hopefully we can switch that when we get to Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, that in fact will be our Zman Perutain, and that will be our season of freedom and our season of redemption. One last question, just as about 12 years ago, or now 10 years ago, on Shavuot, before I moved here to Los Angeles, we did a father-son talk, and we asked, what's the difference between my rabbinate and your rabbinate? 30 years apart. Over those 10 years, do you think something has changed?
Let me first say is that Ima and I are incredibly, incredibly proud of you, not just as a rabbi, but as a human being. We're incredibly proud, of course, of all of the kids, and we're incredibly proud, really, of Nicole, also who is given to the community. We've been able to watch the last couple of weeks the Shabbat morning services that you have provided. They're upbeat and they're joyous, they're intelligent, they're bright, they're engaging, and it just makes us so proud that the two of you are a shlichim, that you are messengers truly doing God's work. I don't know, there are nuances and of course there are differences. We come from different generations. The way I see things, I still refer to things like the good old days, the way they used to be. But on the other hand, I think there are similarities between your rabbinate and my rabbinate. The words that we say every single morning are the same words. The same words that Pa said, the same words that Zadie said. Goes back generation, generation, generation. Maybe that's why Passover works, because it lets you have one foot in the past and one foot really into the future. And I think also is that what we do as rabbis, we teach and we provide really a message of hope and really a direction for people. We recognize we don't have all the answers. We're struggling to find some of the answers. But at the end's day, I think when we put our heads on the pillow at night, those of us who are rabbis are able to say, because of the relationships we've created, that verse that's found in Bereshit, where Jacob says, Achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh v'ani lo yodati. Behold, there is a God. There is a God in this place. And I think really I'd rather emphasize our similarities than really our differences. And just being here this evening with you is pure joy, is what joy really is all about. And the way you have allowed, carried on the tradition for the family. I mean, all the kids do that with Eyal. When I watch you leading the services, and both Em and I see you put Eyal's talis on Shabbat morning, there's a tear, but there is a smile, because it's about continuity and it's about the future.
I think we're going to wrap up our first guest of our new series, hopefully weekly series. I want to thank my dad for actually not staying up late. This is the usual bedtime back east. They have parties back there. We're usually the ones sleeping first, but in all seriousness, it's really an amazing technological blessing that we were able to do this, and we hope this will be one of many going forward. We want to wish everybody a Chag Sameach. Please tune in to SinaiTemple.org for announcements to find what channel our virtual Seder will be in, our services, etc. We're going to be moving more to a Zoom format and a more interactive thing as well. And we wish you a Laila Tov. Thank you.
Erez, one last question. Where are the kids?
Yes, way past their bedtime.
We want the kids.
Thank you, everybody. A Laila Tov and Chag Sameach.
Love Tov, Erez. Love you.